White light floods the Senate Judiciary Committee hearing room, reflecting off the polished wooden tables and the cold marble walls. 11 senators sit in a horseshoe formation, each with a nameplate catching the glare their faces set in unreadable expressions. Behind them, staffers stand, quietly holding folders and laptops, their eyes flicking from notes to the people in the room. Along the far wall, 9 cameras wait with their red tally lights flickering lenses trained on the witness table. A faint hum from the microphones fills the air, blending with the subtle rustle of papers and the occasional click of a pen. At the center table sits a thin leather portfolio, ordinary at first glance, yet somehow commanding attention. Inside there is only a single page, its edges sharp, the ink still dark and fresh. A clerk adjusts the clock mounted on the wall while the gavel rests untouched before the chair. The room is not yet in motion, but the weight of what is about to happen presses down on every person present. In the front row of the gallery, an older man folds his hands together, his gaze steady. He has sat through countless hearings before, has heard promises made and promises broken. But today feels different. Today, something inside him hopes for an answer, not another performance for the cameras, but the truth spoken plainly and without fear. Cory Booker had just finished his opening barrage, a clean, confident swing designed to pin Pam Bondi to the wall before she could take a breath. He called her defense partisan theater. He questioned her record. He framed her as an unreliable witness in the first 60 seconds. The sound that followed was not a roar. It was a scatter of reluctant palms, a few bursts of clapping that rose and fell like static. Staffers exchanged quick looks, the kind that say, "Keep going, we've got momentum." Booker allowed himself half a smile, the practiced expression of a man who knows how his clip will play on the evening shows. The cameras rewarded him. Lenses snapped toward his dais, then whipped back to Bondi, then swept the committee like a metronome measuring nerves. Red tally lights flickered. A boom mic drifted closer. The room began to breathe in short, shallow pulls. The chairman studied the papers in front of him without reading a single line. Someone coughed and regretted it. The air made a small, expectant sound. Bondi did not blink. She straightened the hem of her navy jacket and placed her fingertips on the leather portfolio as if to steady the table rather than herself. No rush to answer, no rise to the bait. She let the frayed applause die on its own, and with it the small triumph of a viral moment. Her composure created a kind of vacuum, a hush, that made every camera lean in by instinct. The room had been primed for a fight. She offered a silence that felt like a choice. Booker leaned forward again, ready to press, but something in the gallery shifted the posture of attention. The collective stillness that says the next move belongs to the person who refuses to hurry. Bondi lifted the flap of her portfolio 1 inch and then stopped as if measuring the weight of timing. She looked up, met the chair's eyes, and then returned to the page in front of her. The cameras, restless and eager, kept searching for heat. What they found instead was pressure gathering without a sound. Pam Bondi eases the thin leather portfolio onto the table and draws the zipper in one clean line. It makes a sharp tack as metal meets metal. The sound is small, but it cuts the room like a bell. Fingers steady, she lifts the cover and lets the leather fall flat. She does not rush. She slides 2 fingertips under a single sheet and edges it forward until the paper clears the lip of the folder. The page has weight. You can hear the soft drag of fiber on wood. She keeps her eyes down, reading one line as if confirming that the words have not moved since the last time she saw them. Only then does she look up, first at the chair, then briefly at Booker. No triumph, no challenge. Just the calm of someone who knows a sentence can end a performance faster than any speech. The cameras tighten their frame. A red light flares and holds. Staffers stop pretending to sort notes. One of them takes a breath and sets his pen down so it will not shake. Bondi rests her palm on the margin to stop the page from curling in the air conditioning. She centers it on the polished wood, exactly square to the edge, the way you place a truth you are not afraid to own. The lone claps from a minute ago have vanished. What remains is the low electric hum of microphones and the awareness that everyone in the room is counting the inches between the document and the hands that will have to touch it next. Bondi's voice, when it comes, is level and almost quiet, the kind of tone that reaches a microphone without ever needing to rise. She is not here to spar. She is here to let the paper speak. She nudges the sheet forward with the light pressure of 2 fingers, and the paper glides across the polished wood like a blade under silk. The grain of the table slows it for a heartbeat, then gives. The page stops in the exact center between them, close enough for Booker to read, not close enough for him to claim he hasn't seen it. A faint emboss catches the light. A date lines up with a margin note. A name sits where no name should be sitting. The smile he wore a minute ago doesn't break. It simply fades as if someone turned the dimmer all the way down. Booker's hand halfway to the microphone stalls and hangs there. His fingers close without touching anything. His eyes jump to the header, then to the bottom line, then back to Bondis' face, as if a second opinion might change the ink. It doesn't. The practiced cadence in his chest misfires. He swallows once shallow. He does not look at the cameras. He does not look at staff. He keeps his gaze on the paper as if proximity alone carries risk. Bondi says nothing. She keeps her palm flat on her own edge of the table, giving him space to speak first and the option not to. The chair's pen hovers above a notepad and refuses to land. Somewhere a jacket rustles and then goes still. Booker inhales, chooses a word, abandons it, and lets the silence hold. In that pause, the room understands the difference between a performance and a reckoning. The page has the floor. He does not. Silence moves across the room like a slow tide, not dramatic at first, just steady and certain, touching every seat, every camera, every pair of hands that no longer knows what to do with itself. The paper holds still at the center line. The microphones purr like a quiet engine. Someone remembers the rules about decorum and forgets how to breathe. You can feel time harden. First second, a senator clears his throat, then aborts the sound. Fifth second, a staffer lowers her eyes, afraid of being caught looking at history too directly. Ninth second, the red tally lights stop blinking and simply burn. 12th second, a pen rolls an inch and stops against a legal pad, as if even plastic understands gravity. 15th second, Booker studies the header again the way people study fatal weather on a radar map, hoping the color changes back to green. 20th second, the chair's knuckles pale. 24th second, somewhere in the press row, a producer forgets the next cue. 29th second, the gallery leans forward as one like wheat in a single gust. 33rd second, Bondis, breathing, stays level. The quiet cadence of someone who decided her risk before she took her seat. 37th second, the air conditioner kicks on and fails to cool the room. 40th second, the word recess flickers across 3 minds and disappears. 45th second, the old man in the front row who has watched promises rise and fall for half a lifetime clasps his hands tighter as if holding them together could keep the country from splitting. And then perched on the edge of 47 with a smile drained of habit and a silence filled with consequence, the thought arrives that no spin can outrun and no headline can tame in the next 47 seconds. What single truth could make an entire room forget to breathe? Before the sound bites and the split screens, Pam Bondi learned to live by the file. She started as a courtroom lawyer in Florida, building cases piece by piece, learning how a single overlooked date can sink an argument and how a single verified line can carry it. She rose on that habit. Voters sent her statewide. She served 2 terms as Florida's Attorney General in the 2010s, a job that demanded long, unglamorous fights over consumer protection fraud and the explosion of pill mill opioid clinics. The wins were rarely cinematic. They looked like checks mailed back to people who never expected to see their money again. The spotlight found her when the cases turned political. She faced sharp criticism over a donation from a high-profile charitable foundation connected to a businessman under scrutiny at the time. Critics called it a conflict. She denied wrongdoing and said the office made decisions on the merits. Years later, national politics pulled her even closer to the fire when she joined a presidential impeachment defense team. For supporters, she was a steady lawyer speaking in plain language. For opponents, she became a symbol of partisan loyalty. The same resume produced 2 very different stories, depending on who was telling it. Going against the wind has a price. It shows up as headlines written in a tone that sticks. It shows up as protests outside a venue where you came to give a routine speech. It shows up as invitations that stop arriving and as interviews that start with an accusation rather than a question. You keep your posture anyway. You learn to hold your ground without raising your voice. You learn that credibility is a long game and that patience is a form of force. Bondi walked into this hearing with all of that weight and all of that training. She knows how quickly a narrative can harden and how quickly a face can be turned into an emblem. She also knows that the only thing that cuts clean through a narrative is paper that can survive daylight. That is why she brought one page, not a speech. In rooms like this, a long defense sounds like fear. A short document reads like risk accepted. She was prepared to pay the cost of not being liked if it bought her the chance to be understood. By the time Pam Bondi takes her seat, a label has already beaten her to the room. Partisan defender, the kind of tag that sticks to skin and microphone foam alike. It shapes how questions are asked and how answers are heard. It turns nuance into suspicion. It primes the audience to see loyalty where there may only be law. The risk is not subtle. Once a narrative hardens, every gesture is read as confirmation. If she speaks firmly, she is grandstanding. If she stays measured, she is evasive. If she names dates and signatories, she is cherry-picking. If she withholds details to protect a third party, she is hiding. The trap is elastic. It stretches to fit whatever she does. There is also the algorithmic angle. Clips will be cut to 12 seconds. Captions will be written for outrage, not accuracy. A pause for precision will look like fear. A careful answer will be edited into a smirk. People who have never read a filing will decide what the filing really means for their followers. Once that mill starts, truth turns into pulp. Gender and history add a second weight. A woman in a high-stakes hearing carries a double ledger. Tone is graded, clothing is graded, eye contact is graded. The same sentence that reads confident in a man becomes cold in a woman. The same restraint that reads professional becomes scripted. The same patience that reads disciplined becomes calculating. You cannot win those rubrics. You can only refuse to play them. So she narrows her purpose, not to be liked, not to trend, to put a page on the record that can survive the studio lights and the morning spin, to give the country something heavier than a take. In a room already decided about who she is, she aims to make the paper decide what happens next. That is the only safe way through a story that others will try to bend around her name. The page is not a prop. It is a map with 3 landmarks that do not care about politics, time signatures, and money. The timestamp is the first anchor. A date and hour that line up with travel logs, building entry records, and an email sent within the same minute. Time has no party. It either matches or it does not. The second anchor is the signature. Not a printed name, but wet ink, pressure patterns, stroke order, a loop that repeats across prior filings, a notary seal that fixes the moment, and a chain of custody that shows where the page has been, who touched it, and when. The third anchor is the money, a transfer with an ABA routing number, an account that lives under an LLC that lives under a trust. The amounts repeat on a schedule. The memo lines use the same internal codes. The originating institution changes, but the beneficiary never does. Money does not do ideology. It does arithmetic. When all 3 anchors align, a hearing stops being a debate and becomes a compliance problem. Counsel cannot answer with adjectives. They must pick a lane, deny the document and risk perjury delay, and invite subpoenas or concede that further review is unavoidable. A page like this moves the burden from opinion to procedure. It is why the copy in her hand is notarized and the original is lodged. It is why names that would harm a private citizen are redacted and why an unrelated minor is kept out of the frame. It is why the chair's pen hovers and does not touch paper. The page does not shout, it triangulates. Time says this happened here. The signature says this person agreed then. The wire says this is how it moved. Together they are heavier than any speech. Together they can tilt the room. Pam Bondi understands that the page in front of her is not only evidence, it is a fuse. If she reads it into the record now, the story explodes beyond the room. Producers will slice the moment into loops. Headlines will strip context for speed. People who are not built for public combat, witnesses, family, even bystanders, will be pulled into a weather system they did not choose. The cost of truth told too fast is often paid by the least powerful people in the story. Yet silence has its own mathematics. If she holds the page back, the machine that thrives on secrecy keeps its shape. A delay can become a dodge. A private warning can be mistaken for a wink. Each hour of quiet hardens the habit that power uses to survive. Wait it out, tire them out, make proofs impossible to find later. Silence is not neutral here. It tilts toward the side that already has more reach and more lawyers. So she runs the dilemma like a lawyer and like a person who has lived long enough to know where pain lands. Speak now and plan for care, redact private names. Protect minors, avoid details that would endanger someone's safety. Lodge the original, use a notarized copy, and anchor each claim to a verifiable artifact. Time signature, money path. Stay silent only if there is a clear near-term path that offers more protection and more accountability than a public reading, such as a closed session with limited access, an immediate referral for independent review, and a documented chain of custody that cannot be erased by tomorrow. There is a middle path, but it is narrow. She can place the page on the record while refusing the spectacle that will try to swallow it. She can let process, not virality, carry the weight, submit under oath, request subpoenas, confine sensitive materials to secure hands, and speak in sentences that do not outpace the facts. The choice is not between drama and quiet. It is between drama that protects no one and procedure that protects the people who will live with the fallout. Bondi does not reach for certainty she does not have. She reaches for duty she can name. Tell the truth in a way that does not break the people who did not ask to be part of it. Refuse to be useful to a cover-up. Refuse to be useful to a pile-on. Make the record heavy enough to hold and humane enough to live with. Truth is not weightless. It lands on whoever is least prepared to carry it. If Pam Bondi speaks now, the blast will not only hit the powerful, it will sweep past them and find the people with no podium. A junior staffer whose name appears in a footer. A spouse who has already spent a decade holding a public smile. A clerk who signed a receipt because it was her job. A teenager who did nothing but be related to the wrong adult. None of them chose the stage. All of them would feel the heat. If she delays, the powerful keep their advantage. Files get moved, memories get coached. People who were brave last night lose their nerve by morning. Later becomes never, and the story hardens into rumor that hurts just as much but fixes nothing. Silence sounds gentle from far away. Up close, it is a strategy with a body count, so she shapes a third option in her head. Tell the truth, but do it with safeguards. Redact what the public does not need. Protect minors without apology. Anchor every sentence to a document that can be verified by someone who does not like her. Put the paper on the record in a way that process, not hunger for spectacle, controls what happens next. Let duty decide the method. Let compassion decide the pace. And still the question refuses to leave. If the truth will bruise the people who did not ask for this, what will she choose? Cory Booker leans into the microphone's shoulders, squared voice calibrated for both the committee room and the 12-second clip that will survive it. His words are measured, but loaded, the kind that draw a line on the floor and dare the other side to cross it. Ms. Bondi, he begins, letting the name hang in the air just long enough to feel like an opening statement. Your record is not one of impartial justice. It's a record of defending questionable practices and protecting political allies. This, he gestures toward the folder in front of her, is not evidence, it's a prop in a partisan play. The air sharpens. He lists her past controversies like exhibits in a case he's building on the fly: donations from the wrong hands, appearances on the wrong network's positions, taken in defense of the wrong defendants. Each point lands with a small percussion of approval from his side of the room. Staffers nod, a reporter scribbles faster. The red light above camera 2 burns steady, waiting for the moment his voice hits that familiar high note. Booker pivots to intent, his tone now just shy of accusation. This is not about truth, this is about spectacle, about creating a viral moment to distract from the real issues this committee should be addressing. And frankly, he leans back slightly, pausing to sweep the room. I think the American people are tired of political theater. It's a deliberate framing. If she answers, she plays into his scene. If she stays silent, the label sticks. He's not just challenging her facts, he's challenging her right to be heard. Every syllable is built to make the next words out of her mouth sound defensive. And in this room, defensive is as good as guilty. Faces tighten across the dais. A senator on the left narrows his eyes. 2 seats over, a pen taps steady and impatient. Booker leans in again, jaw set. Bondi's gaze stays level, a single slow blink that reads as resolve. The cadence snaps into a rally. Do you deny you took that meeting? Booker's voice is flat hard. For the record, that meeting was neither improper nor influential, Bondi replies. A half smile ghosts across his face, the kind built for clips. Improper is subjective. Influence is measurable. The facts are in front of you, she cuts in. You just don't like where they lead. Sentences overlap. Breath is a beat, not a pause. The microphones hold the spikes while the room holds its breath. No one shifts. No one coughs. In the quickening rhythm, accusation and answer collide. and the viewer has to choose which impact to believe. Pam Bondi keeps her breathing even. In, out. No rush to fill the room with adjectives, no swing at the insult. She lets the heat pass her and settle where it came from. Then she lowers her eyes to the page and raises her voice just enough to touch every microphone. Let the document speak, no flourish, no slogan, just 4 words that change the center of gravity. She slides the page a fraction closer and anchors it with her fingertips. Date at the top, signature near the bottom, routing numbers and memo lines in between. The chain of custody stamped in the margin. A notary seal that is not impressed by opinion. She does not argue intent. She does not rehearse her awesome. She names the process. Notarized copy before you. Original lodged. Names of private citizens redacted. Minor protected. Times and entries verifiable by the clerk. Silence answers before Booker does. The chair glances at the seal. Counsel measures his sentences and decides not to speak. The cameras drift from faces to paper because paper is the only thing in the room that cannot perform. Bondi looks back up steady as a level line. The record can carry it, she says. I do not need to. When one side floods the room with emotion and the other side clings to a document, follow the anchors that do not bend. Start with timestamps. A time mark either matches outside data or it does not. Check travel logs, visitor entries, calendar invites, and email headers. Watch for time zones and daylight saving shifts. Real timelines line up across systems that do not talk to each other. Then look at signatures. Wet ink has pressure rhythm and stroke order. Compare with prior filings licenses or sworn forms. A notary seal fixes a moment and a location. A signature that avoids every loop and flourish is often a stamp, not a hand. Consistency across years is persuasive, perfect uniformity is suspicious. Ask 3 questions for any bombshell page. Who created it? When was it created? Who has handled it since? That is chain of custody. A clean chain lists each handoff and why it happened. Scans show scanner IDs and creation dates. Redactions should be square and consistent, not painted with a brush. Money trails speak in arithmetic. Routing numbers and account endings can be traced. Recurring amounts on a schedule tell a stronger story than one large transfer. Memo lines reuse internal codes. The originating bank can change the beneficiary staying the same as the tell. For video or audio, treat adrenaline like a special effect. Listen for jump cuts and room tone changes. Watch the clock on the wall and the shadows on faces. If the emotion is doing the work, ask why the document is not. If the document is doing the work, see whether the emotion tries to drown it. Remember what not to do. Do not hunt private addresses. Do not name minors. Do not publish IDs. Responsible viewers protect bystanders while testing claims. The goal is simple. Let timestamps and signatures carry the weight. Let feelings follow the facts, not lead them. A low, hollow percussion slips in under the ambient hum, barely there at first, like a pulse you notice only when it speeds up. 10. A single muted thump as if someone tapped the inside of a drum with a gloved hand. 9. The sound gains a faint echo bouncing in the air vents. 8. Camera 2 drifts closer to Bonda's hands. 7. The tapping grows sharper, a stick striking wood. 6. Booker's lips part as if to speak, then close again. 5. The percussion splits into 2 alternating beats, heartbeat and ticking clock. 4. The gallery leans forward in sync. 3. The bass deepens like something heavy set down on a hollow floor. 2. Bonda's fingertips shift just slightly on the page. 1. A final clean strike metal on metal. 0. She slides the document forward, and in that half second before anyone reads a word, the air changes. The sound cuts to silence, but the rhythm it built still pounds inside the listener's chest. The camera cuts tight on the document frame, filled with cream-colored paper under the glow of the overhead lights. The ink is dark and deliberate, each line aligned with a precision that feels official. Black bars run across key sections, names, addresses, account numbers, thick enough to block the content, but thin enough to remind you something is hidden. Margins show the clean geometry of a notarized copy embossed seal, faintly catching the light page number in the lower right, and a barcode sticker from the clerk's office. The viewer's eye is pulled toward the unredacted fragments, a date that aligns with a crucial event, a signature in confident strokes, and a sequence of digits that hints at a financial trail. Each visible element is like an island in a sea of black, daring the audience to connect them without the missing bridges. The page doesn't shout its meaning, it lets the weight of what's concealed do the work. The silence around it feels heavier than the words themselves. 3 numbers anchor the page and pull it out of spin territory. First, the date timestamp, 10:14 a.m. May 3rd to the is XX. It appears in the upper margin and repeats in the email header metadata. Building access logs place 2 badge swipes within the same minute. The calendar invite shows the meeting window opening at 10:15. Time zones align. Daylight saving is already accounted for. The minute holds. Second, the money, $37,000. Not once, but monthly landing between the 28th and 31st, depending on the bank's processing calendar. The ABA routing number changes twice over the span, but the last 4 digits of the beneficiary account do not. Memo lines recycle a short internal code. Over 127 months, the pattern stays intact. Private identifiers are redacted, but the arithmetic remains legible. Third, the match rate between communications and movement across emails and travel logs. There is a 92% timestamp overlap over 24 instances. Average delta under 2 minutes. On the date of the signature, the alignment tightens to sub-minute. Separate systems, email servers, visitor logs, flight manifests agree on the same hour. When emotion argues, these numbers don't. Time pins the moment. Money shows the route. The match rate closes the door. The microphones catch a tiny hiccup, a breath of static that sounds like the room forgetting its lines. The sound tech reaches instinctively for the fader and then stops because nothing is actually wrong. The silence is just heavier than the system expects. Across the dais, eyes begin to move instead of mouths. A senator on the end glances to his right and gets a tight nod in return. Another looks down at a legal pad and finds nothing worth writing. In the press row, keyboards stall mid-sentence. The cursor blinks like a metronome that has lost the beat. Counsel touches his collar and gives the knot of his tie a small practiced tug, the kind a person makes when he needs a second to compose a sentence he hopes he won't have to say. He adjusts a cufflink that doesn't need adjusting. He swallows once. The chair's pen hovers over the margin and then lifts away as if setting ink to paper would commit the moment to history too soon. A staffer reorders her stack of folders by reflex, then leaves them exactly as they were. Booker's hand retreats from the microphone and settles on a page that no longer wants to be part of the scene. Bondi doesn't move at all. The only motion is the slow rise and fall of her breath and the almost imperceptible curl of the paper's corner in the air conditioning. Somewhere in the gallery, a coat sleeve whispers against an armrest. The clock over the door ticks once audible in a way clocks are not supposed to be. The cameras tighten another inch, abandoning faces for the document because the paper has become the only thing in the room that can tell the truth without sounding like it's trying. Nothing is said, but everything is decided. The next person to speak will have to answer to the page, not the crowd. The room does not breathe. It waits. The microphones hum like distant wires in winter. Someone's sleeve brushes wood and then freezes. The page rests in the center, still as a held note. You can feel the question standing there without a voice to carry it. This is where words ruin things. So the voice drops to a hush and lets the silence do the heavy work. Second 1, awareness. Second 5, the weight shifts from personalities to paper. Second 9, memory wakes up making its own connections. Second 12. The gallery's posture changes a long inhale that never finishes. Second 15, the older man in the front row thinks about promises he has heard and promises he has kept. Second 20, a staffer decides not to text the line she planned. Second 24, a lawyer counts options and comes up short. Second 29, Booker reads the same line for the 3rd time, hoping the ink will say something different. Second 33, Bondi holds the table with the calm of someone who came here to lose popularity and gain clarity. Second 37, the cameras surrender to the page and stay there. Second 40, the clock above the door makes a sound it has never made before. Second 45, the room accepts that the next sentence will define the day. Second 47, the silence is no longer absence. It is evidence. No crescendo, no flourish, just a hush big enough for every viewer to pour their own heartbeat into. If you can feel your pulse now, you know the moment is doing what it came here to do. If this is only theater, why did no one deny it on the spot? Not counsel, not the chair, not the senator who called it a prop. Because real denials have teeth. A true denial triggers obligations. On the record, under oath, it invites subpoenas. It opens discovery. It freezes stories in transcripts that never go away. It risks perjury if the paper survives daylight. Paper does not blink. A timestamp either aligns with badge logs or it doesn't. A routing number either clears to the same beneficiary or it doesn't. A signature either repeats its pressure and stroke order or it doesn't. A notary seal either holds chain of custody or it doesn't. Numbers don't care about adjectives. Silence is not confidence. It is calculation. Buy time. Study the ink. Count the exits. Hope the moment passes before the page is read aloud. If this is theater, someone should say no right now. Loud, clear, final. But no is a lock, and locks are dangerous when the page fits the key. So what line on that page turned applause into quiet? Which number made counsel adjust his tie? Which date made a camera forget to move? What detail took the room from performance to consequence? The moment the hearing adjourns, the noise machine spins up. Hashtags bloom like weeds across the feed. Bondygate, hashtag Booker owned, hashtag paperbomb. Trending panels show spikes in opposite directions, one claiming vindication, the other demanding resignation. Cable news pundits grab the clip and slice it into 30-second outrage segments, each wrapped in their own spin. The same document shot plays on loop with voiceovers that couldn't be more different. Exonerating evidence on one channel, smoking gun on another. Partisan blogs fan out with bullet point breakdowns, cherry-picked frames, and headlines built for maximum share. Anonymous accounts close to the committee whisper about an ethics investigation, feeding reporters just enough detail to write without confirmation. Draft leaks hit inboxes, blurred images, partial transcripts, selective screenshots, designed to be viral, not verifiable. The audience at home doesn't get the silence of the room, they get the noise of the network. Timestamps lose their precision when memes crop them out. Signatures fade into compression artifacts. The page itself becomes less important than the team colors it's draped in. In the crush of hashtags and hot takes, the truth has to fight for oxygen, and it's already down around. When the noise machine roars, hold the signal. Build the timeline first. One line, left to right, put every artifact on it. Email sent, badge swipe, calendar invite, airport gate scan. Note the exact time zone and whether daylight saving was in effect. Record the source system for each time mark. Servers do not share clocks. Real stories survive across mismatched clocks. Lock in independent evidence. Do not rely on the person who wants the claim to be true, or the person who wants it false. Bring in a third party that has skin in the process, not the outcome. A notary confirms when and where a signature was made. A certified lab confirms what is on a page. A forensic accountant confirms how the money moved. Each report should stand on its own with methods described in plain language. Run signature comparisons like a mechanic, not a mystic. Look for pressure changes at the start and end of strokes. Check stroke order on loops and crossings. Compare angle baseline drift and letter spacing against known exemplars from different years. Authentic handwriting has small human inconsistencies. Machine-made perfection is a tell. Triangulate device and location. Email headers show sending IPs and server hops. Phone records show tower pings and SMS timestamps. Building logs show badge entries and exits. Ride share receipts, toll cameras, and hotel keycard data mark movement. If 3 independent systems place a person in the same hour and place the claim gains weight. If they disagree, say so. Honest gaps are stronger than forced fits. Keep privacy boundaries. Redact private addresses in minors' names. Publish the method, not the home. When you present, show the timeline, cite the independent source, and explain the match in one sentence. Let the audience see the spine time signature device place. That is the signal. Everything else is weather. 2 duties collide in moments like this. One is to protect people who didn't choose the spotlight: spouses, kids, junior staff, bystander witnesses. The other is to inform the public when power may have been abused. Both are real, both are urgent, and they often point in opposite directions. Start with a simple rule: need to know beats want to know. The public needs enough detail to hold institutions accountable. What happened when, who exercised power, and how money or authority was used. The public does not need private addresses, minors' names, medical specifics, or sensational intimacy. Withhold what harms bystanders without weakening the proof. Redaction is not concealment when it protects those who never consented to be here. Use proportionality. The heavier the claim, the heavier the verification, but also the heavier the duty of care. If a document proves misuse of resources, Show the timestamp, signature, and money path mask the identifiers that would expose a child or a private citizen to online mobs. If a witness must appear, consider voice-only silhouette or affidavit in a closed session first. Public truth can flow from process. It does not require faces. Apply least harm, maximum accountability. Minimize exposure, redact PI, blur faces, generalize locations, a suburban hospital, not an address. Sequence disclosures, put evidence before identities, publish methods before names. Safety plan, coordinate with counsel and security for any witness who steps forward. Consent with capacity, do not treat consent as valid if it's given under shock, fear, or pressure. Reconfirm later. Trauma-informed questions, avoid prompts that re-victimize. Stick to what you saw, what you signed, what you can verify. Define the public interest threshold. Exposure is justified when it reveals systemic misuse, corruption, or ongoing risk to others. It is not justified when it simply satisfies curiosity or humiliates a family member who holds no power. Ask the clarifying question: if we remove the gossip, would the accountability still stand? If yes, you're on the right track. If no, you're feeding the spectacle. Close the loop with independent review. Put originals under seal, release notarized copies, and let third parties test the claims. Transparency is a scaffolding, not a floodlight. The audience, especially viewers who've lived long enough to see both scandal and smear, deserves clarity that does not burn the people who never asked to be in the frame. The balance is not easy, but it is possible. Prove the conduct, protect the collateral. That's how truth lands where it should, on the shoulders of the powerful, without breaking the people standing beside them. This is how the system tilts. When a nurse's aide, a junior staffer, or a single parent speaks up, they are told to bring perfect paperwork, dates, signatures, chain of custody, independent labs. If one comma is out of place, the whole story is called unreliable. When a powerful figure speaks, they are allowed to offer a feeling. I have concerns. This looks political. We need more time. Vague doubt is treated like evidence. The burden shifts back to the person with the least protection. It is not just unfair, it is structural. The vulnerable must prove every inch. The powerful only have to postpone. Examples repeat across institutions. A waitress needs itemized receipts to report wage theft. An owner needs only to say clerical error. A temp worker needs time-stamped door logs to prove harassment patterns. A manager only says misunderstanding. A mother presents notarized affidavits, an executive shrugs and says old news. Call it paperwork privilege when access to lawyers, notaries, and time turns justice into a test only the resource can pass. The remedy is simple to name and hard to practice. Raise the bar for the powerful and lower the cost of entry for the powerless. Demand receipts from the top. Offer procedural help at the bottom. Treat plausible doubt as what it is, an argument to verify, not a license to dismiss. If the page on the table asks the weak to be perfect, it must ask the strong to be precise. Anything less is not balance. It is theater. You have lived long enough to know that some truths heal and some truths break what they touch. You have seen families choose quiet to survive a season. You have also seen silence rot a house from the inside out. If it were you, your family, your name, would you choose the peace of not knowing or the ache of a truth that might save you later? Would you wait hoping the storm passes, or would you open the window and let the wind clear the air? There is a third way, but it asks for patience. Protect the people who did not choose the spotlight and pursue the truth through process. Redact names, guard minors, verify with independent hands. Speak when the record can carry the weight, not when the crowd demands a show. What would you choose today, knowing you will have to live with that choice tomorrow? Pam Bondi works alone at a small table in a quiet office. No entourage, no TV, only a stack of documents and a clock that moves too slowly. She lays out the notarized copies one by one. Each page is square to the edge. Each seal is pressed clean. She runs a fingertip over the emboss to feel the ridges. The paper passes the touch test before it passes the camera test. She opens a logbook. First entry document, description page, count, date, time. Second entry, who created the copy, who witnessed the copy, where the original is lodged. She writes in block letters, clear, legible, no room for poetry. She adds the unique identifier that the clerk's office uses on the envelope. Then the hash from the digital scan. 2 systems, 1 record. She checks redactions. All private addresses masked, all minors' names removed. She compares the redacted PDF against the clean original. and marks match on the checklist. No stray pixels, no guessable fragments left in the margins. She prints the audit trail from the redaction software and staples it behind the exhibit list. She turns to the money path. Wire records sit in a separate folder. Routing number, account ending, memo line. She highlights the monthly pattern and notes exceptions by date. She tapes a short legend to the inside cover: ABA change, edicts, bank merger delay, ENOR's weekend processing. A skeptic should be able to read this without calling her office. She prepares the custody chain: tamper evident envelopes, numbered seals, a sign-out sheet with space for name, title, time, and purpose. She fills the first line with her own name and adds overnight control. She notes where the originals are stored and who holds the key. She writes the key holder's cell in the backup contact. 2 people, not 1. If one phone fails, the other can answer. She arranges delivery. The clerk will receive the packet in the morning. A bonded courier will carry the sealed envelope. She prints the waybill and writes the courier's badge number beside it. She adds a second copy for the committee counsel and a third for the court reporter. Each packet carries the same index and the same page numbers. She initials the flap of every envelope, a small line that says, "I touched this and I stand by it." She reads the timeline again. Email header at 10:14 a.m. Badge swipe at 10:14 a.m. Calendar open at 10:15 a.m. She circles the overlap and writes cross-system, confirm in the margin. She checks the signature page. She compares the loop of the capital letter to 3 earlier filings. The pressure fades at the same place. Human hands repeat themselves in small ways. She pauses. She thinks about the people who did not choose this. The spouse who will read a headline before breakfast. The staffer whose name sits in a footer. The teenager who must never become a storyline. She says their names in her head and then closes the folder that protects them. The redactions hold. The process holds. That is the promise she can make. She turns off the desk lamp and leaves a single light burning near the door. The envelopes sit in a neat stack, seals unbroken logbook, open to a fresh line. She writes the last note of the night close session, 2:15 p.m., originals under seal, copies notarized, chain intact. She caps her pen. She lets the silence settle. She is not asking to be like tomorrow. She is asking the record to carry the weight. The first message arrives without a name. Back off. No punctuation. Blocked caller ID. She photographs the screen, then the lock screen, then the call log. She emails the images to herself and to counsel with the subject line, preserve. She writes the time in the logbook. 9:41 p.m. She adds the phone's unique ID and the SMS thread ID. Fear has a shape. It fits in a rectangle of light. The second message is longer. Redacted knows where you work. Don't make this messy. She does not answer. She takes a second photo that captures the battery level and the carrier banner so the metadata can confirm the device. She forwards it again. She writes, no reply. Preserved. She turns on do not disturb and whitelists only 2 numbers, counsel and the clerk. Outside, when she steps to the curb, a car idles at the corner with the running lights low. Not close, just present. The same model she noticed twice this week. She watches it in the reflection of the glass door rather than turning her head. She notes 3 things: partial plate letters, a dent near the rear bumper, a missing hubcap. She enters them in the logbook. She adds the time and the location in plain language, not code. She is writing for the officer who will read this later. She changes her route. 1 city block extra. 2 doors she can enter with a badge. A lobby with cameras she has confirmed are live. She calls building security and says the words that trigger the protocol, I have a pattern. They meet her at the service entrance and escort her upstairs. She asks them to pull the exterior footage for the last hour. She asks for a copy to be saved to removable media. Label, date, time, custodian initials. At the desk, a new voicemail. A voice run through a filter. People get hurt when they overreach. She does not play it twice. She saves it. She forwards it to counsel and to the protective detail. She requests a transcript with a chain of custody cover sheet. She writes the entry voicemail. Distorted male voice, threat implied, preserved. She does one more thing before she goes back to the envelopes. She duplicates the packet for the closed session and places a sealed copy in a separate safe on a different floor under a different key holder. If fear has a shape, truth needs a spine. Redundancy is that spine. 2 copies, 2 seals, 2 sign-out sheets. If someone tries to scare her into silence, the record will speak twice as loud. She sits again. She breathes. She writes 1 line at the bottom of the page. I will not escalate with words. I will escalate with procedure. Then she turns to the next checklist and keeps going. Pam Bondi makes the call just after midnight. No press release, no leak. She chooses process over virality. She will bring the sealed packet to a closed session. Fewer microphones, more sworn hands. She drafts the request in plain language. Executive session under committee rules. Exhibits submitted under seal. In-camera review by members and counsel only. She adds 3 asks, issue subpoenas for the records that match the page, refer the money trail to independent auditors, and protect private citizens named in redacted fields with a standing privacy order. She signs, prints the time, and logs the document ID. Morning plan is mechanical. The clerk receives the packet. The courier's seal number is checked against the waybill. The chair's office signs the custody line. Counsel notes the room, the start time, and who is present. Phones go into locked pouches. Laptops stay outside. A court reporter opens a fresh stenotype file labeled closed. Every step leaves a footprint. She keeps the presentation small and heavy. No adjectives. No speculation. One exhibit at a time. Timestamp, signature, funds path, cross-system match. She explains why names are redacted and why a minor's identity will never be spoken. She does not argue for headlines. She argues for findings. The point is not to starve the public. The point is to feed it something that will stand when the shouting stops. If the committee wants the truth, it will leave the theater and walk into the record. A closed door can do what a camera cannot. It can slow people down long enough to read. She writes one sentence in her notebook before she leaves for the Hill. Reduce spectacle. Increase duty. Then she picks up the sealed envelopes and goes. She speaks in one clean line, no flourish, no pause. I'm not here to win social media. I'm here to bind the law to the facts. Put the page on the record. The door to the closed session swings in and settles. The latch catches with a soft final click. The score drops a few steps. Bass fades. Strings thin to a hush. The room exhales. Your pulse eases back to normal. In the quieter air, a single line returns steady and low. Do we still dare to ask for the truth even when it refuses to entertain us? Not the flashy kind, the slow kind, the kind that lives in stamps and seals in minutes that match. The kind you cannot binge, only read. The kind that will not make a meme but will hold in court. If the answer is yes, then we choose process over spectacle. We choose names protected and facts verified. We choose timelines and signatures instead of performances and applause. We choose to wait long enough for the paper to outlast the noise. The door's closed, the cameras are out, duty is in. What do we ask for now, comfort or clarity for the record? Private citizens who did not seek public power will not be named. Minors will not be identified. Medical details and home addresses will not be disclosed. All personally identifiable information remains redacted. Evidence, not personalities, will lead. Original documents are lodged under seal. Notarized copies are provided to the committee. Chain of custody is complete and documented. Independent verification is in progress. Metadata review, signature comparison, and funds traced by certified professionals. Transparency means method first. The public will see the timeline, the exhibits index, and the verification steps. Private identifiers will remain masked. Any summaries released will cite sources and limits. Corrections, if required, will be issued promptly and on the record. Witness care is non-negotiable. Safety plans are in place. Consent is confirmed and reconfirmed outside of shock or pressure. No outreach will solicit or engage minors. No fundraising, endorsements, or personal gain are tied to these disclosures. This is an accountability action, not a publicity event. Next steps are procedural. Subpoenas where required. Independent audit for financial claims. Closed session review for sensitive material. Public findings when the record can bear the weight without harming those who never chose the spotlight. We protect the innocent. We show our work. We let the process speak before the cameras do. Step 1, preservation order. Issue a written hold to all custodians. Freeze emails, texts, cloud folders, devices, and paper files. Note time scope and systems. No deletions. No auto purges. Step 2, independent audit. Retain a neutral firm with no prior ties. Define scope, funds, flow trust structures, shell entities, reimbursements, and security usage. Deliverables, preliminary report in 30 days, final in 60. Methods explained in plain language. Step 3, subpoenas with teeth. Serve targeted subpoenas to banks' trustees, payroll vendors, travel contractors, email providers. Name custodians by role and date range. Include device IDs and account numbers where known. Production deadlines, 10 business days rolling. Step 4, chain of custody. Log every handoff. Use tamper evidence seals. Record who and where and why. Keep originals under seal. Work from notarized copies. Step 5, metadata and header validation. Extract email headers. Confirm server paths sending IPs to Kim or equivalent. Normalize time zones and daylight saving. Hash every file. Recreate message timelines from server logs, not screenshots. Step 6, signature verification. Compare stroke order pressure angle baseline drift with known exemplars across years. Confirm notary commission venue and stamp validity. Photograph seals under raking light. Step 7, device location triangulation. Match phone pings, badge logs, ride share receipts, hotel key cards, and flight manifests. 3 independent sources in the same hour and place establish presence. Document mismatches without spin. Step 8, privacy and safety. Redact private addresses and all minors' identifiers. Use code names for private citizens. Keep sensitive exhibits in closed session. Safety plans for any witness contact. Step 9, public transparency package. When the record can bear it, release a timeline, exhibits, index methods, summary, and source list. No PII, no theatrics. Corrections posted on the same page within 24 hours if needed. Step 10, governance actions. If misuse is substantiated, refer to inspectors, general ethics committees, or prosecutors as appropriate. If not substantiated, publish the negative finding with the same clarity. Either way, let the paper speak. One sentence summary. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Paper over pyrotechnics. Core rule. Documents before drama. Put proof ahead of feelings. If the paper is weak, the speech is noise. Justice is a routine, not a moment. Justice is a repeated schedule, logs, kept stamps, checked, audits run. Not a single firework in a victory lap. Practical checklist for any bombshell. Timeline first, exact times, time zones, daylight saving, cross-system match, signatures next, stroke order, pressure, notary validation, commission still active, money path, routing numbers, recurring amounts, same beneficiary, exceptions explained, chain of custody, who touched it when why, tamper seals, log every handoff, independent eyes, third-party lab accountant metadata review, methods in plain English, privacy guardrails, redact PII, never name minors, blur what the public doesn't need, process over performance, closed session for sensitive material, subpoenas, not slogans. Corrections welcomed. If a date is wrong, fix it on the record. Credibility rises with repairs. No timeline, no take. If you can't place it in time and space, you don't have a claim. Duty of care. Tell the truth without breaking bystanders. Mindset. Go slow to go fast. Precision beats passion. Let the record carry the weight so people don't have to. One line to remember. Justice is a repeatable calendar, not a one-time fireworks show. You have lived through seasons when truth took the long road. You have watched neighbors hold their breath through strike scandals and headlines that forgot the people inside them. You remember that patience is not passivity. It is courage stretched over time. This story asks for that kind of courage. Not the applause kind, the steady kind. The kind that keeps a timeline, saves receipts, and waits for stamps and seals to line up. Truth doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it arrives like morning light, slow, certain, undeniable, if you give it time. Your generation taught us how to hold on, how to sit with discomfort without turning away, how to insist on decency when it wasn't fashionable. If the noise is loud tonight, lend us your calm. If the doubt is heavy, lend us your patience. Truth needs the steadiness of grandparents to stand upright. Truth needs the patience of your generation to stand. Comment where you're watching from and share the line you believe justice should never cross. Every story, every personal insight helps complete the bigger picture of truth. Subscribe so you won't miss what's next. Next week, we'll break down noise versus signal with a 5-step checklist you can use to verify any story yourself. Match the timeline, check the signatures, trace the money trail, cross-check device and location, and confirm through independent sources. No rumors, no spin, just truth clear and verifiable. Justice isn't about the loudest applause in a heated moment. It's about a steady chain of actions grounded in truth. In a world flooded with noise, emotions can push us toward hasty judgments, but only evidence can stand the test of time. The takeaway: slow down, dig deeper, and put truth above personal feelings, because that's the only way to protect justice for the long run. If you believe truth is worth defending and justice needs the steadfast hit, subscribe now. Join us as we uncover, dissect, and cross-check the stories the mainstream often overlooks, so you're not just a listener, but a truth verifier.